It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the U.S. bobsledder Ellliot Markuson. How are you doing today?
What's up, man? Good to be here. Glad to meet you, and I'm excited.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in the sport of bobsledding?
I think it just comes from my background playing Division I college football, and wanting to still compete. And I think overall, push myself and compete on a national level for our country.
Of course, what was that like going to Ole Miss and competing in college football?
Playing football in the SEC in the South, it's kind of like a religion. I grew up in a football family. My dad is a college football coach. He coached in the SEC, so you could probably say it was in my blood, in my nature. So it was. I don't want to say I didn't have a choice, but it definitely would have been hard to not play college football. So
Of course, what was that like getting to play college football in the SEC?
it's humbling. It's so historic. The pageantry, the fans, the people. The different venues in the SEC, they're also historic, and just the culture behind it. And I go back to Oxford as much as I can to support the Rebels and to see my alma mater play. And I miss it. I wouldn't do it again, but I do miss it and I have so much respect for it.
What was that like getting to put on the Rebels red jersey?
It's an honor, because I'm from Oxford. I went to high school there, played high school football, two-time state champion. So kind of like the hometown kid. It was a blessing and honor, and just to get to represent something bigger than yourself, I think is probably the most important thing for me. So
How is that like obviously getting to play with some of those teams like Georgia and Alabama each week?
it's brutal. Those are top tier elite programs. They recruit well. They have great athletes from all over the country. But you always match your opponent's ability, right? So when you see these athletes play, like every week was a fight. There was nothing ever given week to week in the SEC. So
What was the transition like from you from going from college football to getting into the sport of bobsledding?
oh, it was so different. The sport is so unique, bobsled that is. It's similar to football in terms of grit and grind and kind of having to have that blue collar tenacity to get in the sled. But besides that, the biggest transition for me was learning how to recover, how to take care of my body like a track athlete, and just learning how to sprint again, which was a hard transition coming from football.
Of course, what was that transition like from obviously going into professional bobsled versus going into the NFL route?
I knew when I got done playing football, I didn't want to go in the league. If anything, I was going to either go coach or be an athletic director or go that route. And when the opportunity presented itself, I never even knew bobsled recruited people. I didn't really know the pathway. And then when I reached out and applied and did the combine and all that, I was like, oh, I'm really going to do this. And this is exciting. So it's pretty cool.
What was that process like going through that bobsledding combine?
Yeah, it was so strange because it was right in the middle of COVID. So I did everything online. Had my roommates film me. Had to do some interviews, I remember, and then I got a call one day, and they were like, "We need you to drive." I live in Nashville, Tennessee, so they're like, "We need you to drive from Nashville to Lake Placid to start for your first rookie camp." And ever since then, it was pretty much all gas, no brakes. So pretty good.
Of course, what was that transition like from, as you said, living in Nashville and then going all the way to Lake Placid and being in the cold?
It was pretty. It's pretty funny. Like I'm from Mississippi, right? So I'm a Southerner, born and raised. And so I remember showing up, and my coaches at the time were like, how the hell does a Southern kid get involved with a winter sport? And kind of the same principle now being in the South, people ask me how do you do a northern winter sport when there's no ice really in the South? So it's fun. It's a big transition, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's still competition. So I still look at it the same as football.
Of course, what was that like traveling to Lake Placid and training at the facilities?
The first rookie camp, we actually didn't even stay on the premise because of COVID rules. We had to stay off. My rookie class did, so we all got to bond together. It was like being at camp. But staying in the Olympic Training Center and practicing and using the facilities, it's really kind of surreal, especially being in Lake Placid, which is home of the Miracle movie and the 1983 hockey team when they beat the Soviets. So it's so humbling. It's so unique. But I mean, I compare it to playing in Death Valley or Kyle Field or uh, Bryant Denny Stadium. Just all these major SEC venues. It's really what it is. It's tradition, and it's just an honor to be there.
Of course, as you talked about the Miracle on Ice, what was that like when you finally got there and you got to see in person what it was like for the Miracle on Ice?
It's just so humbling. My dad is from Minnesota, so he grew up watching Herb Brooks. He knew he was in college when they played that game. Some of the guys on the team were from Minnesota that my dad had known. And so growing up, I always watched the Miracle movie and going to see the hockey stadium. It's just so surreal. They kept everything the same as they did that night. The biggest thing was kind of crazy for me was how did they get all those people into Lake Placid because it's such a tiny kind of outpost and it's so far away from everything. It must have been pretty incredible. But like I said, it really is just humbling and it's an honor to even be able to go see it. So
How was the competition and training for the competitions like?
the competitions are, I didn't run track in college, but a lot of my teammates that did, compared to big track meets. I mean, you have athletes from all over the world trying to warm up, trying to get their legs going when it's, in the teens. There's just snow and ice. It's very unique, very different from where I come from. But I think that's what makes it fun. It's such a collaborative effort to even get a race going. So it's definitely a unique environment.
Of course, what does it mean to you to get to represent US in the bobsledding?
Oh man, it means everything to me to represent my country in professional elite athletics. It's something that I would never dream to do. Um, and I just I thank God every day for the opportunity and the blessing to even be there with world class athletes and just learn from them and be friends with them and just like I said, it's all about the camaraderie and the competition, and it's like being a part of a big family. So
What was that feeling like the first time you got to put on the US bobsledding uniform?
the first one I put on was my training uniform, and I remember just putting it on and just all the hard work and dedication, even from football all the way to this point with people investing in me along the way. My trainer, my mentors, people in my corner. It was just humbling, and it wasn't for me. It wasn't me. I didn't do this. This was, like I said, this was a blessing, and this is a culmination of all the people that have invested in me along the way. So I felt just as much as I was wearing something that dignified them as well.
How did it feel to obviously compete in the rookie push?
It's so much fun because you're just around so many different athletes from different backgrounds, and it's just so unique. I mean, there are guys from the military, guys from CrossFit, guys from collegiate football, collegiate track, just all walks of life. So, and I think that's what makes this our sport, for the USA unique because we recruit from different talent pools. We don't have a feeder team. We don't start our kids bobsledding out at 12 years old, right? Because it's not United States, we play basketball, football, baseball, right? So that's what makes it unique.
Of course, as you talked about that, how is it like obviously having so many unique people, such as people in the military like Riley, people that used to be zookeepers, or even CrossFit?
I think it adds such a unique perspective. The way I look at it is you can learn something from everybody. I learned a lot from Riley. I learned a lot from Mallory, and my other teammates that came from the track world, teaching you sprint mechanics and all that good stuff. It's really humbling, and every day you show up, you try to learn something new because every bit of knowledge, right, can help you in the sport. So
How is it like for you to compete in the North American Cup?
it was fun. I actually didn't get to compete last year. I was there training and did the full running events, but just being there and being in the atmosphere, like I said, being around all the international athletes, it's a privilege to get to know all of them and see how they compete and really at what sports can do internationally to bring people from way different backgrounds together, which that's what I really enjoy. So.
What is that feeling going to feel like? Obviously, as you said, you didn't compete this year, but in the future, what is that feeling going to feel like competing in the North American Cup?
Man, it's gonna make all the training cycles and rotations worth it, all the hard work, and actually most of our time, I would say only 20% of our time is really spent sliding, especially competing. Most of the time is spent training, moving sleds, sanding runners, kind of the blue collar mentality of the sport, right? Kind of the stuff behind the scenes. So it's gonna once I finally get to have that competition under my belt, it's definitely gonna make the whole process worthwhile.
What are some of the things that you do during the off season to prepare you for the season?
Yeah, I definitely at the beginning of the off season, I take a break, which was something I had to learn to do. I wasn't good at it coming from football. It was just grind, grind, grind. This year, I went to Central America, took some time off. I have a full time trainer here in Nashville, um, and we do as much as we can, without the ice. And then any chance we get up to Lake Placid, we have our new ice house, so we get to push on the ice. And bobsled is a sport of repetition, so it's such technique and refinement that is you want to try to get 300 or so pushes in season just to stay fresh. So it's a lot of maintenance.
What is that going to feel like to obviously compete in the push challenge?
Yeah, push champs are coming up in the next few weeks. I'm excited. It's a chance to showcase your ability and what you've been working on in the off season, kind of like fall camp 2 days in football, right? You show up and see where you stack up with your teammates and what teams you get named to. Obviously you're trying to make the national team each year, and then get on the NAC circuit if not, and then at the end of the season get a chance to go over to Europe and compete in an international race. I think that's the goal, but everyone's got to start at push champs and try to put up some good times and get behind the sled.
Of course, what is that feeling like when you get that first initial push going down the sled?
In the ice house, it's pretty fun because you're just pushing, and all you're worried focused on is technique and time, and pushing a good time. Now, when you're on the hill and you're going down the track, you're thinking, and as a push athlete, all I'm thinking about is push, 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 get in, get locked in the back, right? Get a good position, get my hands on the grips, get my feet where they're supposed to be, make sure my driver's good and settled, and then after that, you just kind of hold on. And I do one of three things: I either sing, pray, or count. And most of the time, it's praying.
Of course, what are some of your favorite memories and moments so far competing for Team USA in bobsled?
I will say one run I did my pilot. We got down to the bottom of the track in a training run, and my pilot looked at me, and I looked at him, and I was like, "Man, that was a good run." And he looked at me and said, "I'm not gonna lie, man. I couldn't see the whole time. My visor fogged up after turn two, and we went down blind." I was like, "Man, don't ever tell me anything like that ever again, or I'm never getting in the sled with you."
Of course, what is that feeling like, obviously, being in the back and having a pilot?
It's very the first time you do it's very disorientating. I take a lot of Dramamine because I get motion sickness, ironically. But it's the only way to kind of cope. It's such a disorientating feeling. Your body doesn't know whether it's in a car crash or if it's going down a roller coaster. And you're done in a minute or under. And so after that, it's the biggest. I tell my football friends it's like playing a 12 play drive on defense and doing that 3 times a day, and your body gets pretty beat up from it.
Of course, how does it feel to have U.S. bobsledder behind your last name?
Like I said, just to reiterate, it's humbling. It's such a blessing. It's an honor. It's something I'll never take for granted, and it's something that hopefully I can inspire others, that are younger than me to pursue something different. Whenever their prospective sport ends, or they might not make the league, or they might not go to the NBA. There's other outlets out there, whether it be coaching, mentoring, speaking, Olympic sports that they can get involved in and just use their talents. And like I said, it's a journey, and it's something I'm incredibly blessed to be a part of.
What are some of your routines and rituals like during your competition day?
For bobsled or football?
Bobsled.
Bobsled, wake up, have a good breakfast. You want to eat. I take a lot of pre-workout to get the caffeine going. A lot of stretching, a lot of hip mobility, quick twitch muscle fiber development. So just get my muscles getting ready to fire, and especially in a cold environment. And that's pretty much it. And then, got my headset in, listen to music, and try not to overdo it. Try to stay calm. You don't want to get too worked up, because the slide down is enough in itself. So,
Who are some of the people that you look up to in the sport of bobsledding?
some of the guys retired after last year's season. I know some guys like Chris Avery, Big Dave, Adrian. These are guys that kind of mentored me. Boone, he played football at A&M. Guys that gave me great advice and have taught me along the way. And it's invaluable knowledge. And really, they're great guys. And so just to be able to learn from them, it's really humbling.
Of course, what is that feeling like learning from those Olympians that are going to the Olympics in the sport of bobsledding?
It's fun. I look at those guys the same way I looked at playing with guys that are NFL stars on Sunday now. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just people. They're your teammates. You try to learn as much from them, and just be cool. And I think that's the main thing. But just to be around them and their trove of knowledge and experiences, it's invaluable.
Of course, how is it like competing next to some of your teammates like Riley Compton?
Riley is a trip. She's probably the most competitive person I know. You can't play a game of ping pong without her getting worked up. But in the world, she played college softball and obviously a Marine Corps officer. So she's so highly respected. She's a great leader. And just to be able to be around someone like that, it's refreshing for me as an athlete. Somebody that'll push me and make me want to get better.
Who are some of your idols and who are the people that you inspire your career after?
I would say some of my mentors, a lot of my college football coaches that invested in me, my father, and then, I had an English teacher in high school who was, outside the norm of a regular high school teacher. He taught us how to fly fish, taught us how to hunt, taught us how to read often and read for, to better. Basically what he would say is, you spend all this time training your body. What are you doing to train your mind? And that really stuck with me as a young man going into, adulthood. And I'm really close with him now. And, we talk often with, where life has taken us and, how to better ourselves.
What is it like, obviously, to live out your bobsled dream?
Man, it's just so humbling. I know it's not forever. I know it'll end one day, and I just want to be able to use this platform while I can to, invest in others, build my teammates up, be the best teammate I can for the whole organization. And then at the end of it, just look back and say, what a blessing, what a ride it's been. So yeah.
What are some of your future plans in the sport of bobsledding?
I want to do at least one quad. So The next Winter Olympics is 2026 in Milano. And then after that, kind of make a call to see where I'm at with my career. I have other career aspirations, outside of bobsled. And I want to try to make those happen in tandem with, what I'm doing and using this platform, like I said, to help others and invest in others along the way.
Of course, what is that feeling going to feel like if you do make the Olympic team?
Oh, it'll be such a rush of emotion. I don't even think I can comprehend. It's just like I said, it'd be so humbling, and just to all the people that have invested in me, they didn't have to or went out of their way to help me, whether it was dinner or groceries or driving me somewhere when I needed help, or my coworkers, teammates, family members. Um, it's not a single effort, and I always tell people that it's the people in your circle, in your corner, that invested in you along the way, that make you successful.
What advice would you give people that are looking to compete collegiately in sports?
Um, just give it your all, and don't let anybody ever put you in a box, right? Um, you can achieve anything that you want, and I know it's such a cliche, but just showing up and doing the work, you will outshine 90% of the people that are trying to do the same thing you're doing. Stay consistent, stay with it, stay disciplined, and have fun. Collegiate athletics is such an honor, and it really sets you up for a career and a life a life plan afterwards. So it's awesome.
What advice would you give those college football players like yourself that made that switch to a different sport, such as bobsled?
Just put yourself out there. You'll never know, what comes of it. I know I have a good friend of mine who's trying to get into professional wrestling, who played college football, and there's so many outlets out there for former football players, and just get involved and put your name out there, and people will pick you up just based off of your background. And so, and then if you're a good dude, so yeah.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to represent, whether it's Team USA or a different team, on a country level in the sport of bobsledding?
Like I said, just put yourself out there. I've met so many great bobsledders from different countries that have just such crazy stories that are so unique, and we're all similar in the way we're cut, right? Let's go get into a sled and go down the icy abyss at 80, 90 miles an hour. I mean, normal people don't really do that. But those of us that do, it's like being in a fraternity. It's a brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever you might call it. And if you're looking to get into it, just make it happen. Try, and there's no hurt and no fault in trying. And if you don't, then at least you could say like I tried and I gave it my all, and we'll see where it goes from there. So
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
you can find me on Instagram. It's where I'm most active. emarky80. I post my journeys. I travel a lot overseas, and kind of my passions are travel and international relations. So you can keep up with me there. Of course, my training and bobsled adventures. And then I have Twitter. Same thing. You can find me at emarky80, and then Facebook, Ellliot Markuson. And that's not all I got.
Thank you again, Ellliot Markuson, for your interview, and best of luck in your future in the sport of U.S. bobsledding.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. Nice to meet you, man.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Ellliot, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Appreciate it, brother.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.